let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out? Who let the dogs out?
So 10 years ago, I quit my job, I left Australia, and I went traveling around the world. And throughout my travels, I met amazing people, some of them who were making positive differences in the world. I met founders of companies tackling climate change issues. I even met a magician who conned a disabled kid into walking again and was working with neuroscientists on the link between neuroscience and magic. And the thing is, I wanted to use my time and my skills to make a difference too. But although I had the passion, I had the enthusiasm, I was really stuck on how. So I took a few twists and turns in life. I freelanced, I worked full-time again, I studied again, I traveled some more, I hit a few brick walls. And then one day I came across something that I was really excited about, this idea of the sharing economy. And I believed so much in its potential that I did my thesis on it. And it was this passion that led me to accidentally building a community when I moved to New York City. So when I moved to New York, I didn't know anyone there. I pretty much had no friends there. But I had a passion. I firstly got together 4 people to talk about the sharing economy. These 4 people turned into 40 people, which turned into 120 people, which turned into 1,500 members, and this was something I did outside of my full-time job for fun. I called this group Let's Collaborate to represent the spirit of the sharing economy. And these people, they believed in what I believed in, this idea of a more shareable world. And by connecting them together, I was slowly starting to make a difference in the world. Ideas collided, startups formed, people started changing their worldview to a more collaborative one. Fast companies suddenly wanted to moderate. Founders wanted to come speak, and we were even on CNN, on TV. I was so excited that people wanted to join this movement. And the same thing happened again when I worked at Virgin Unite. Community members banded together to protect the oceans. Donations went towards important causes. People even changed their business models to not just think about profit, but also people and the planet as well. I started to realize that you don't have to create a crazy app or be a groundbreaking scientist to make a difference in the world. You can do so by creating a community. So now I'm at Airbnb, where we have hosts in over 190 countries around the world who are making a positive difference every day. For example, Annika, she's a host in Berlin, and she uses the income she earns from Airbnb to support refugees starting their new lives in Berlin. So why is community important? Our Airbnb CEO and head of community says, the stuff that matters in life is no longer stuff. It's other people. It's relationships. As many of you now know, consumers are fickle. Marketers are finding it so hard to capture attention from customers. So building a community, building a strong set of relationships around your brand can be a really powerful thing. Competitors, they can copy your product, your advertising, or your distribution, but it's impossible for any competitors to ever copy your community. At Airbnb, we have hosts opening up their homes to guests around the world. And now we also have hosts offering local experiences to guests. And this relationship between a host and guest moves beyond a transactional one to actually an emotional one. So Hans here, he's a German host living in Staten Island, New York City. He and his wife Sandra host because of all the friends they're able to meet around the world. Richard here, he met his fiancée Ella through Airbnb, and they're getting married in August. These examples show how powerful and special it is for a brand to be part of shaping people's lives, being part of their identities. It's so much more powerful than a radio or magazine ad can ever achieve. And the outcome of community isn't just about relationships. It can also help drive business outcomes. So I work on the host side of the business, where I work on connecting hosts with other hosts. And by connecting hosts with other hosts, it leads to loyalty, retention, growth, where hosts refer other people to join Airbnb. It leads to reduced customer support costs, as hosts are helping other hosts versus calling in. It leads to advocacy. We've had many hosts turn up to City Hall to advocate for fairer home sharing regulations. Product feedback, word of mouth, and new ideas. These are just some of the examples of how building a community can help drive business objectives. So bringing it back to the theme of the conference, it's the Year of the Dog this year. And the Year of the Dog represents family, loyalty, people fighting for causes that they believe in, community. It's a really important year for creating social bonds. So I'm going to leave you with 3 high-level principles that I personally find important when building a community. The first one is around connecting others around a higher purpose. So when I put together the community gatherings in New York, sometimes people come up to me and say, "Hey, Melissa, I want to create this for my brand too." And when I ask them why, they would say things like, "Well, I think I have a product that people would get really excited about," or, "Maybe this is a way for me to lower marketing costs." The thing is, although community can totally help drive business objectives, which I showed before, consumers are not going to flock to a brand just because of the product. People rally behind brands that have a higher purpose, and they believe what that brand stands for. At Airbnb, it's not just about renting a house. When you travel to the other side of the world, maybe it's to a country you've never been before. Maybe it's a place where you don't know how to speak the language. Maybe you feel a little uncomfortable. As soon as you step into an Airbnb host's home, you feel welcomed. You feel like you belong, although you're far from home. And it's this feeling of belonging, of openness, of hospitality that many of our community members identify with. So the strongest, most long-lasting communities have a higher purpose that others want to rally behind. So for those of you in the room who are thinking about building a community, think about what that higher purpose could be that would cause people to want to rally behind you and to join you. If you want an example of a long-lasting community, Alcoholics Anonymous has existed since the 1930s, so a long, long time ago. And their higher purpose is in helping others achieve sobriety. The second principle I want to leave you with is around building your core. So when Airbnb started, our founders, Brian, Nate, and Joe, got some wise words from their first investor, that it's better to have 100 people love you versus having 1 million people kind of like you. And this applies straight back into community building. When I started Let's Collaborate, I found 40 people that I identified through one-on-one coffees, through meetups, through Twitter. And these 40 people really represented what Let's Collaborate stood for. And by bringing these really values-driven and passionate people together, they set the tone and foundation for Let's Collaborate. And their energy created this network effect for other people to come join. And to further amplify this core group, I would invite others more influential than myself, but who had the same values. Like Lily Cole, actress, model, founder of Impossible.com, Rachel Botsman, author of Collaborative Consumption, Robin Chase, co-founder of Zipcar. Really amazing women, by the way. And by inviting these amazing people to come be part of the community, they further amplified what Let's Collaborate stood for and further attracted the right people into the community and help it grow. The third principle I want to leave you with is around empowering your community. So when I started at Airbnb 3 years ago, we were in 34,000 cities. A year later, we were in 65,000 cities. And this year, I just found out we were in 81,000 cities. So as a community manager, you can only do so much yourself. And if you want to scale, if you want to grow, you have to think about empowering others. We use a concept called the Snowflake model at Airbnb, where we find hosts to become leaders, and these hosts connect hosts with other hosts, who inspire other hosts to become leaders, creating this cascading effect of micro-communities around the world. And to find the right leaders, you need to identify them. Find those who are passionate about your brand, who share the same values, who show leadership qualities. Support them. Perhaps it's giving them ideas on what types of meetups they can hold and training. Maybe it's giving them access to online tools. And don't forget to reward and recognize them. From our experience, intrinsic rewards work better than extrinsic rewards like money. Examples include spotlighting a community member in the newsletter, perhaps giving them access to special events, perhaps even getting your founders to call top community members and to thank them for their contributions. And to give you an example, or to give you some examples of what this looks like in real life, I've selected a few of my favorite community leaders from around the world. This is Trisha. She's from Perth. She held a bedroom staging meetup at a local homeware shop where she taught other hosts how to stage the perfect bed for her guests. In Kyoto, a community leader wanted to support her local ninja school. So she approached this ninja master, asked him whether he could do a ninja training course for hosts and guests. So she got hosts and guests together to do ninja training. And these community leaders, I see them as positive forces in society. And to me, they are the new leaders in society. Johnson in Penang, when he heard that a neighbor's house burnt down, he took charge and got other hosts together. And these hosts, they helped donate items, they supported the family, and they even helped rebuild the home. So going back 10 years ago, when I really wanted to make a difference in the world, but I just didn't know how, I now know it's not just about the individual. It's through others. It's through community, who together believe in something higher than ourselves that will make the biggest changes in the world today. People are lonely. They're seeking connection. They're wanting to build meaningful relationships. So it's a really, really important time to build community. So I ask you this: what is your bigger purpose for yourself, your company, your local community? Who are the core people that you can build this with? And what are the effects if this idea scales? And maybe, just maybe, by doing so in community with others, then you can truly change the world. Thank you.